I like to acknowledge the land on which we meet, the land of the Gadigal people of your nation. I like to pay respects to the elders, past, present and future. And past, present and future and all here today. Thank you.
Thanks. Beautiful. Beautiful. We love it. Yeah. Let's have a word of prayer. Let's all try and quiet and calm ourselves down so we can be present before the presence.
Calm yourself, everybody.
Of course I'm being ignored by someone. It's a bit like when you pray for patience. You never get patience. You get people to annoy the crap out of you to teach you patience, right? So
Yeah.
It's quiet and calm and centre ourselves. My eyes are not haughty. My heart is not proud. I do not concern myself with things too great or marvellous for me. Instead, I have quieted and calmed my soul, like a weaned child that knows all is well when Mama is in view. Holy presence, for the wisdom of that child, we now ask. Beautiful. I'm going to invite my brother Graham Richard to take us through the psalm. We are having the call and response, so where it's in bold, we do it together, and then you'll handle the rest, but we'll have a go at it this week. Thank you.
Welcome everybody. Well, this is pretty exciting. Call and response, huh? So have a look at it here. And this is from a book in the Bible called Psalms, which means songs. So try not to sing it, but let's say it together. Starting, to you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. In you I trust, O my God. Do not let me be put to shame. Do not let my enemies triumph over me. No one whose hope is in you will ever be put to shame, but they will be put to shame, those who are treacherous without excuse. Show me your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Guide me in your truth and teach me, for you are God, my Saviour, and my hope is in you all day long. Remember, O Lord, your great mercy and love, for they are from old. Remember not the sins of my youth and my rebellious ways. According to your love, remember me. Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore he instructs sinners in his way. He guides the humble in what is right and teaches them his way. All the ways of the Lord are loving and faithful for those who keep the commands of his covenant. God will bless his song to us.
Thank you. Thanks, brother. Excellent. We're going to have some songs. You tell me when you're ready for...
Do Show Me Your Ways.
We'll do Show Me Your Ways. There's some beautiful songs today. Emma, can you help us? I woke up with a terrible sore throat, and we're still living in those times where it's best to not be here if you have a sore throat. So he's gone for a test, even though we're fairly confident he'll be all clear. It's still part of the protocol of this place. So thank you to Emma and Adam, particularly as we're getting through today. And Easton and Adam doing a great job, right? And does anyone know this song?
This one here is love.
Therese, get on the piano, mate.
Yeah, man. I don't think we know this song. How about we go for the other song, and then we've got a special song for which we have a special guest.
Oh, good.
Alright, so just give me a second. As you can see, we are a slick production. Actually, these guys are, it's just me when I think about it. Alright. This one even has the words attached to it. Let's just open it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It is, I believe. And don't look at my messy desktop. Alright. Turn it up a bit.
Yes, now surrender to the rush of day.
Let's all stand up.
When the night of rolling wind can be turned.
Well, we've got even more of a treat. That wasn't enough of a treat to hear everyone singing. It's beautiful. Thank you. Now, we're going to have one more song that we're going to have played for us up here. And but I've got to say, we've got a real treat today. Look, who's met my wife Lisa? Yeah. Yes. Well, you're all very lucky. Do you know I have a friend who I've known for 20 years who's never met Lisa? Right? Because I'm a super extrovert and she is good with people. Right? Think about that for a second. And so he calls Lisa Mrs. Snuffleupagus because no one's ever seen her. Well, you have. And you're very lucky if you've met her. Same with Bronwyn. We always hear about this wonderful Jon, and today we actually get to meet him. So welcome, Jon. And we're going to have a song that Bronwyn sent me through the last week or two, and you're friends with the guy that wrote it, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. And so Jon's going to, did she tell you this?
Yes.
Yes. Jon's going to and tell us a bit about the song, and then we're going to listen to it, and we're going to see it up on the screen. So welcome, everyone. Welcome, Jon, everyone.
Thank you. It's an honour to be here today. The song you're about to hear was sent to me 3 weeks ago by a friend of mine, Kenny Parry. I was in a band with Kenny in Liverpool many years ago.
England.
Sorry, in England. Many years ago. Kenny's a great songwriter. He's written some beautiful songs over the years. In the last few years, he's become a bit of a social commentator. He stopped writing songs to become a pop star. He's given them all away. And now he writes songs from the heart and through tears. I think you'll understand. So Kenny sent this to me 3 weeks ago. And he said, "What do you think?" He said, should I bin it? Should we throw it away? And after hearing it, I said, "Kenny, the song is brutal realism." I said, "You really need to keep going with it." And we both agreed that the strength of the song, in all of Kenny's songs, is that there's hope. In the darkest moment, there's always hope. And that comes after a lot of Kenny's songs. And in this one, I think one of the lines is, the reaching hand that comes to me. So I hope you enjoy the song.
Thank you. Thanks, Jon. I'm just going to give me 5 seconds to set this up. Thank you, Jon. I felt like I was listening to the Beatles. Right? So with that beautiful, is that a Liverpudlian accent?
Yes, it is.
There we go. All right.
Well, the song is called Homeless, by the way.
Homeless.
Was a cold, dark night, and the snow was falling heavy along the crystal pavement. The sound of laughter rang, and there was me, a fallen angel, trying to hold on, clinging to a broken dream, but everything was gone. Through stone-dry eyes, from lack of sleep and drinking, I could see the people celebrating. It seemed so far away. No one cared or noticed, though I'd been there for a while. Just another lonely voice, searching for a smile. Trying hard to summon the will to walk away. Trying to get my lips around the words I couldn't say. Well, I hope you're never homeless, hungry, tired and cold. And I wish for you a good friend to give you comfort when you're old. Someone to share the memories of times when life was sweet. Yes, I hope you're never homeless, living on the street. Then I saw someone's hand reaching out to help me find a purpose and a way. There's still some left who are kind, someone to say it'll be okay. Don't think badly of yourself, no matter where we've landed. Sometimes we all need help. And I hope you're never homeless, hungry, tired and cold. And I wish for you a good friend to give you comfort when you're old. And you can choose to look away, wouldn't blame you if you do. Yes, I hope you're never homeless, I hope it's never you. Yes, I hope you're never homeless, hungry, tired and cold. And I wish for you a good friend to give you comfort when you're old. Someone to share the memories of the times when life was sweet. Yes, I hope you're never homeless and living on the streets.
Yeah. Wow. That's not often heard that response in a church, but you know, I'll take it. For those of you that missed at home, it would just be all believed out anyway. But look, we're at a time where, Bronwyn's asked if we can try and sing that as on a Sunday morning. Yeah, not yet, not now. Let's see how we go. If I hear some nods, we might give it a go in a week or two's time. It's beautiful. And it's not often that you hear a song that has a message for our world in it, so that was very powerful. Thank you.
And it's what Wayside does. That's what I love, is the hand reaching out.
Yeah. I'm going to try and swap and see. Okay. That sounds a bit better. Okay. We're now at a time of open sharing, so pardon?
Can I do the notice, or you don't want that?
Yeah, Janet, you come and do the notice first. Please come up, please. Thank you.
Sorry.
And but then, as Janet comes up, this is a time where we can. The microphone's open. If you need, if you want to share anything about this week, what's gone well, what's blown you away. Maybe I've had someone say they need a bit of prayer, so feel free to come up and share. But we'll just get Janet to do an announcement first, which is the very functional part, but very important and exciting part too. So I just want to thank you, Janet, for all the preparation and organisation you put into this too. So welcome up, Janet.
Okay. I feel like the school person who's going to organise the excursion is really dry.
You've got to be near the microphone.
I feel like the school person that's organising after that. It's my heart that we pray this week for those in Austin and those in Texas and those who have died on the church doors. And we've all been told at one point in our life, I think not many of us have escaped the moment when someone has asked us, based on who we are, that we can no longer stay in the home. And we've all had that moment where we've wondered where to go. And that song brings us to that moment. Well, brought me to that moment. Particularly a day in Adelaide when I didn't know where I was going. Anyway, next week. Okay, next week at 11:30. Precisely, okay? Precisely. And then, Mark Wayside.
11:30?
Yes, Precisely.
That's still church.
No, 11. Oh, sorry. Oh,
12:30?
12:30.
12:30.
Yes, that's good. Okay, I'll be changing the message.
Make it 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. Shall we do it 12? Okay, 12 o'clock-ish.
Precisely.
Oh, man. 12 o'clock, van. I've got 3 more places to go on a wonderful food tour of Cabramatta. Now, the person who you need to come to me directly afterwards and put your name with your phone number down, because I'll send out a confirmation this week. Obviously, if you've got a cold during the week and stuff, you'll have to be knocked off the list. And there will be a waiting list, and we're hoping there's a waiting list so there'll be a second tour. So I can't believe I said 11:30. It's 12 o'clock. You'll get. I need your numbers to get a group text out. Now you need $20 cash for the lunch, and that's all you need, and a bit of extra cash. A lot of Cabramatta is cash only, although there might be little cards. So, but for the lunch, definitely $20 cash. You're going to eat first at the Tan Viet Noodle House. There's a booking made for you, and vegetarians will actually go next door and get their food and bring it to the Tan Viet house, and Danny's going to prep it for you there. Anusha, who's taking us on this walk, some of you have seen here, and her mother used to lead the most amazing walking tours of Cabramatta shops and Cabramatta restaurants, and all the smells and tastes and sounds of Southeast Asia exist in Cabramatta, and it's really easy for us to sit with a fried rice. Sorry, Kylie, but it's, you know, the Australian taste of the ubiquitous Chinese restaurant. That day, you're going to get a chance to go out and about. You will need your walking shoes, maybe a hat, depending on the weather. John's going to be there, and there'll be another person there to help out Anusha. But she'll be leading this tour, and she's so excited. So 12:05:10, come to me straight after.
Precisely.
Sunday. Next Sunday, out there, 12:10. We're leaving here for a lunch at 1.
Beautiful.
No, I will come straight to me afterwards. There are 3 spaces current, so I expect to see, okay, Roman, I'm putting your name down now. I'm sorry?
Desmond.
Desmond?
043.
I'll do the numbers after.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you, Janet.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And if we overbook, we'll do another trip. All right. So, and we'll take the Wayside vehicle, so we won't be catching the train. So, all good. Thank you. Wonderful. I love what Wayside precise means. Right, but we will get there. And look, if you want to make your own way there, feel free to make your own way there. Just we're booked in at 1 o'clock at
Yeah, really there needs to be about 12 maximum there, and
Yeah.
I need to know the numbers by midweek for booking.
Okay, good. All right then, excellent. So hear that? Tell Janet, and if we can get you in this time, we will. If not, we'll get you in next time. Wonderful. All right, where have you had your breath taken away this week, or where do you need to rely on others? Josh, you going to go out and share, brother? All right. I feel like you've had a perm, mate. I like it. Natural job, right?
Well, most of you would know that I've had a long period of homelessness myself. I was homeless on and off for 25 years, and recently I had a neighbour who caused some trouble for me, and I had to vacate my old property. Well, Thursday last week, guys. So I'm moving to Glebe, right opposite Sydney Uni. And now I'm also doing TAFE as well. I'm doing a diploma in community services. So my first week last week gave me 4 assignments. I had due by the 7th of March. So I need some prayer and assistance along the way for that. But yeah, no, I'm excited that I've got a better place now in a better area, and I'm able to be able to be, as much as I'm already valued and I impact people around me in this place, but I'm able to do that more under a bit more of a trade as a community services worker.
Do you need anything?
Yeah.
Anything from you, Kate?
I need a light. that old student life. So, no matter what happens or no matter what you do, we love you, brother. Let me just tell you that. It is so exciting to see the steps you've taken. And starting up at TAFE, and you bumped into someone at TAFE this week. Yeah, so my kids started at the same TAFE as Josh, and they bumped into each other. And I think you're coming over for dinner sometime, eh?
Yeah, apparently. Well, she said she's asked me all about it.
All right, okay. So, ham and cheese sandwiches, mate. It's all right. You butter chicken. Yeah. Well, you'll be bringing it from the shop. Talking about food, talking about fried rice though, I've got to say, the last day and the last 3 hours that Kylie's restaurant was open, I ran in there and ordered 2 huge tubs of her fried rice, because your fried rice is like nothing else at that restaurant. And because you had that seasoned pan, I think it was just amazing. I look forward to it. Is that wok still around? I heard a Chinese chef the other day say, he says you've got to have just a dedicated wok for fried rice, and then all these Western mates go, a single-use thing in the kitchen, what a waste. And then he says, and then I walk into the house and they all have toasters. Come on. Anyway, you had your breath taken away. Steve, get up here, brother.
Yeah.
Speak into the mic.
It's been 10 days since I've been out of the mental health ward, and I'm struggling with food, with accommodation, with money, drugs issue, with sleeping problem, and I just need to pray, to make right decisions, because I lost my money in one day, and then I went to Centrelink, and I only done the girls and the advanced loan, and I wish I'd done Highs and the advanced loan, and now I have a Pinamore in Victoria as well as New South Wales, and have to go to court, and I'm very scared that I might go to jail or be in the streets, or go back to the mental health ward, or take too much drugs, or don't know about my future, just worry about my future.
Come here, mate. Our brother's here, and he's been able to share, and there's no hole here that's so dark and deep that people haven't been there.
I feel bad than Wednesday, but
yeah. Taz, can you get up here, brother? Pray for this. Pray for our brother here. We've got our teams doing everything they can, but we also need some prayer, brother.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get Taz.
Thank you, brother.
Thank
you, Taz.
Just a little bit of advice, I suppose, that when the world looks like shit, turn shit into a good fertiliser radio. Heavenly Father, I pray for Steve and for everything that he's gone through. You know where he's headed, and you know where he's been. And just, I just pray for a rainbow of love all around. I pray that you never leave his side, as I know you won't. But when he's feeling in his darkest moments, just shine that light. I pray that in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a moment beyond words, I think. Further words would almost seem to cheapen it, so let's just stop it there. And let's. You want to come up, sister. All right.
Yeah. This week I was at NIDA, and we had our premiere filming festival for our filming things. And yes, and it went really, really well. And I also this week I saw a worker who used to work here called Mon, and I've also now been invited to do my life story with them, and also a little house in Martin Place sometime, I can't remember when, sometime this year. And yeah, I'm also want to just have a little prayer for me. because I did my accident, my falling down accident. The doctors are kind of concerned why my head hasn't actually healed up a bit, and I've still got the lump, but it's still pretty bad, they say. They did scans last week. Not last week. Yeah, last week. I think it was. And they said everything's normal, but they've got to keep an eye on my concussion, and that's why I lose my memory, because my concussion is what is worrying them, and my head is not really healing up that fast like I like to. It's now been 5 weeks since my accident, since I fell over at home. And those people out there that don't believe that I fell over at home, I've got one thing to say. I don't really worry about what you really believe or not. It's what happened to me is the truth. And I have no reason to lie about what I say, because I'm the one that's got to go through all the pain and all the memory loss. And I apologise if I sound a bit off, and I forget what I say sometimes. So please bear with me. And yeah, I love you, Aunt. I love you all.
Yeah, I love you. And I think a head knock, it takes a long time for the memory to come back sometimes. So yeah, we're with you. We're with you. Wow. Let's all stand together and say the Lord's Prayer. And then after we say it, we're still going to do the namastes for the passing of peace. So, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Now pass the peace.
Peace be with
Take things out.
Yes, ma'am.
On the thing. How did you show up?
That's the thing about
I'm really happy with you. It's really all I count.
Mr. PG,
you're not a student when you're
Serene. Did you forget something,
Hi, I'm so glad to see you.
No, you'll look at this time in years to come and go, I know where when I was down, it was on the bottom of the barrel, and now I'm
That's a beautiful song.
We will definitely get some.
Skittles.
You tell him that we sing at Wayside. Yes, he can.
I'm just recommending
We're going to do the reading.
You can be a bit more aggressive that way.
Today's reading comes from Mark chapter 1, verses 9 to 15. At the time Jesus came from Nazareth into Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan, as Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw heaven began torn open and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." At once the Spirit sent him out into the desert, and he was in the desert 40 days. Being tempted by Satan, he was with the wild animals, and angels attended him.
Thanks, brother. Thank you. We can move this out of the way now. Well, we've had a bit of fun, and we've gone. This is one of the longer times we've been together, so I'm going to try and wrap this up quickly, much to your relief. But about tying it all together a bit, because I just want to help us set our lives in terms of a larger frame. So in the Psalms, we say things like we hear that your ways are higher than my ways as we're talking to God, as we're talking to the great spirit of love that's in this universe. And we need ways that are higher than our ways, not because they're better than our ways, but that they pull us up out of ourselves. Because we all exist in a series of concentric circles that begin with us and our experience and our stories. Then they move into the next sphere, which is, so it's my story, then it's our story, which is our families, our communities, the groups in our tribes into which we belong. But that's not where it ends. In fact, that's sadly where most of it ends, and throughout human history and throughout recent modern history, that's where we end. But there is also the story. And I don't say the story as if so often our story is co-opted the story to say that we're this little group, and guess what? Just in this epoch of history, we've guessed it exactly right, and God's completely on our side, and if you're outside of this tribe, then you don't have God. That's not what I'm talking about. The, not as in the specific, but there is a bigger story out there whose ways are higher than our ways. And we lift our eyes to the hills, and where does our strength come from? Our strength comes from God, because we need to be lifted out of that. Otherwise, if we don't have a bigger story, if we don't have sacred mythology, and I use that term very carefully, if outside of a sacred mythology, if we don't have that, all we have left is personal pathology that is separated out from, certainly from any sense of our story, and certainly disconnected from any sense of a bigger story that's out there. The great message of Easter, which we'll get to, this is the first Sunday of Lent, that Lenten period. For me, one of the greatest lessons is if we don't transform our pain, we'll transmit our pain. And Jesus on the cross shows us how we can deal with pain in a generative way. How we can deal with death in a way that anticipates new life. But this is right at the start of the journey. This is the first Sunday of Lent. And before we can go on that journey, we hear this story where Jesus is baptized. And they tell the story, which if you read more of that little passage there, it sounds like the most amazing thing happened, right? That the heavens opened and a voice came down, and they heard this, and a voice was heard saying, "This is my Son, my beloved, in whom I'm well pleased." If you actually read around the story, no one else seems to have noticed, right? So, but that's okay. That's not why, because Graham Long puts together these and he cut that bit off, so I lost that line from it. But it's okay. We can stay with the little section we've got, because if we, where we're broken is also potentially where we're blessed. And I want us to sit with that, but I'll just park that somewhere in the back of your head, and we'll talk about it maybe in a few weeks' time. We will talk about it definitely in a few weeks' time. but I won't insist that exactly where you've been broken is where you will find your way forward. Because sometimes we've experienced things that are too painful to be able to brought into some areas of our life. But let me just tell you a bit about my story. So I grew up, where I grew up, I was the only coloured kid in the whole school. And there was me, a kid with a disability, and a kid that was from another nationality. And we used to take turns every week to work out who would be the one who was beaten up on that week. Right? And we had a good roster. Right? So, and even to the point where we knew it was our week, and even though we didn't want it to be our week, the one bully, his name was, I won't say because we're on YouTube now, I still remember the bully's name, and he had triple wash denim, right? Remember that was this is in the 80s, right? This is pretty cool stuff. Acid wash jacket with the stone wash jeans. This kid was cool. And he would pick on one of the three of us, and that would be, he just, for some reason it lasted a week. And, you know, then the kids would form a circle, and he would just start hitting us, and then kicking us and pushing us to the ground, and then sitting on our heads. And that would be the kind of ritual that would happen until the bell rang and you kind of got a break for the rest of the day. But you knew it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Occasionally he would forget, thankfully. But you also knew there were some weeks where he'd pick one kid twice in a row, 2 weeks in a row. So one of us had to jump in and go, no, almost have to say, no, it was my turn this week. And it wasn't fun. And I can still remember that. We're talking 1984. 1985, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. You know, and I still remember being lying flat on the tan bark in the playground area, and you'd be sitting on your neck doing this thing called the typewriter police thing, where they dang, 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 bang on your forehead, and they whack you on the side of the head. Kids don't know what a typewriter is nowadays, do they? But I think we all do. We all know what a typewriter is. Stephen, you're probably too young to know what a typewriter is. It's knock that spool through. Not fun. And all I wanted that whole time was someone to stop, because the kids would form a circle around it. And for some reason, this is the 80s. I think, what were the teachers doing in the smoking and drinking vodka probably at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? That was the old staff room in the 80s, probably. Never came. And I remember just thinking, I just want somebody to walk into that space and just break into it and to say, put their arm around me and say, it's going to be okay. Never happened once. That made me pretty upset, you know. It made me used to feel like I was pretty worthless. And then it felt like there was no value in me. And I grew up with beautiful parents who were very successful, and they had high expectations as the only boy out of 4 in an Asian immigrant family. You know, they came here so we'd have a better education, and I wasn't doing well at school, and Mum had this real passion around English, and she was an English major, and she'd been offered a scholarship to study in England, but then Grandad said no, girls aren't meant to go to university, so but that was Grandad in another era. But she loved English, and it was her passion, and she made us read, and we had this whole set of, I think Reader's Digest would monthly send out a book, and it was the classics, and she would be so excited when the books came. And they were hardcover, so we knew if we didn't read them, she'd whack us with them. So we knew we needed to read them. So Frankenstein, Tessa the Dubervilles, all these books, A Brave New World, at least that was interesting. You know, in this whole series, I think she's still got the series that she used to put with Copper Art Brass Ducks. Remember that? I don't know why. We just loved, Mum and Dad loved Copper Art Brass Ducks. They were there to bookend them. And I was useless at English. So I did the only thing I could do, which was plagiarise an essay completely for my English teacher. And out of desperation, right, I found an old essay. You could do it. There was no internet back in those days, so you couldn't be fact-checked on plagiarising, but I found an old obscure essay and handed it in as my own work. And, I remember this teacher, my English teacher, she stopped me the next day and she said, John, I need you to come into this classroom. Come into the room early. And I thought, oh no, she's caught me. She's busted it. All the obscure essays and York notes. Remember what York notes were?
Yes.
Yeah, good old York notes. She's found me out. She pulled the essay out of her satchel and she said, "This." I went, oh no. She said, "This is quite possibly the best essay anyone has ever handed in to me ever." And I was going to confess immediately, but all that could come out of my mouth was, "Thanks." And she turned the essay into a statewide English literature competition, and it won first prize. And I had to accept the award and read it out in front of a hall full of people. And Mum was proud.
Oh dear.
Then she looked at me after all of this, and she looked at me and said words that still just made my blood run cold, which was, "And John, I just can't wait to read your next essay." You have a gift, you have talent, you're amazing. And I just... Tell you what, it awakened some self-belief in me. It enabled me to then sit there and study like I'd never studied before, and I began to read books, and I began to try and do the questions and to summarise them and to synthesise arguments and to be able to put together words in a way that actually made sense, and it actually helped neaten up my handwriting. And I started to get better and better at it, to the point where I finished high school English 1 mark shy of a perfect score. Right? From a dunce who hardly read, today I'm not saying that the goal is to get 100% on 99 on VCE for me growing up in Victoria. English, it's that her belief in me awakened something that actually led to some hard work. And I reflected on it last week in the Inner Circle if you want to read more about it. But sometimes belief leads to hard work, but belief actually awakens love, that moment of love. And before Jesus goes into the desert, he hears a voice that sets him in a larger frame that says, "You are my son." We all need to hear that before we can walk into the desert, that you are loved. That's why the prayers that we read in the Psalms are, Lord, they're beautiful, beautiful Psalms here, guide me into your truth and teach me. We need to put our hope in you. Otherwise we'll continue to get lost in our story, in our pain, and we will lose sight of the larger frame into which we've been placed. So I went off and I found that I went into helping others. All of a sudden I was working for 20 years, and that's when I studied to be a social worker and was involved in a community, and then I learnt the 10 scariest words in the English language, which is, I'm a social worker and I'm here to help. They are terrifying words. But I needed it to be set into a continually larger frame. One where I can realise that I have gifts to give this world, but I also have gifts to receive. That I have things to say to this world, but there are also some things I need to hear. I needed to hear that my story, whilst painful, has a purpose, but it's also not normative. Does that make sense? Sometimes we think our story, oh look, this happened to me, so therefore it's happening to everybody. No, it doesn't happen to everybody. But it also has helped me, if I could go back and help that little kid in the playground 20 years ago, 20 years ago, isn't that cute? Nearly 40 years ago. I would take that away. Of course I would. We wouldn't be human if we wouldn't. But it's made me the person I am today. The belief of that teacher, the love of people that have surrounded me, and some of us got it when we were young, but it just needs the love of the community. I was talking to someone this week who basically was saying to me they love, the natural response of our culture. If someone's going through a hard time, it's the worst reaction of the culture we've got in this, which is, they're going through something tough, let's just leave them alone for a minute. Right? It's the wrong thing to do. In fact, this friend was talking to me and they said the thing they appreciate the most is how tone deaf we are at Wayside. You know, it's like, even though we know you're going through the deepest shit of your life, everyone's like, how are you? How you going? You good? You going to come? You going to come? You going to be here? You going all right? We just pester you to death, right? Or pester you to life. Right. We need that. Because I think we've learned in this culture, if someone's going through something tough, let's push away. Well, let's actually open the doors where we can provide that space of hospitality. And I just wanted to finish with this beautiful quote about hospitality by a guy called Henri Nouwen, who was a beautiful priest. Nouwen. He's written about 40 books. He passed away a couple of decades ago. But all his books are short and sharp and just brilliant. And I recommend it. He's the one who wrote a book called The Wounded Healer that I recommend to everyone. He talks about hospitality, which I think encapsulates what we're trying to do and who we're trying to be in this space for each other. Because it's not about, when I was initially in social work, I was trying to change the world, I was trying to change everyone around me. And that's missing the point of what we're here for. Right? Hospitality means primarily the creation of a free space where the stranger can enter and become a friend instead of an enemy. Hospitality is not to change people, but to offer them a space where change can take place. It is not to bring people over to our side, but to offer freedom not disturbed by dividing lines. The paradox of hospitality is that it wants to create emptiness, not a fearful emptiness, but a friendly emptiness where strangers can enter and discover themselves as created free. For us to sing our own songs, to dance our own dances, and free also to leave and follow our own calls. Hospitality is not a subtle invitation to adore the lifestyle of the host, but the gift of a chance for the guest to find their own. How do we create space for others to find their own? And I think our responsibility as a community is to try and create that space. Not to change people, to offer a space that's safe enough so that change can take place. So we can offer different stories. It's very dangerous to get just stuck at the point, I think, that globally we're running the risk of completely losing personal identity and completely sealing out to this thing called group identity. Us versus them. And the way we break through that is through meeting others and telling different stories. The kids at Wingspan, excitedly, you know, we don't have the youth drop-in centre anymore. We've got the kids at Wingspan who we take kids from all over the place who haven't had the best starts in life, and we train them up and surround them with a bit of love, and we are teaching them to work in the cafes and the op shops, and they're going to be working in the cafe here too. They excitedly came and they said, we want to write a children's storybook. I said, oh, what's that about? And I said, we would have loved to have known when we were growing up that there were different kinds of families out there. Because we've been all raised in different kinds of families, not just normative mummy and daddy and, kids. I was raised in a single parent family, and another one was raised with two same-sex parent families. And they said, can we speak about alternative families? So they're writing a whole children's storybook. And we found a publisher, and hopefully we can twist their arm a little bit to publish that book. How exciting is that? But that's how we do it. That's how. I mean, they spent so many years feeling not normal, not okay, because of what we surrounded ourselves with. How do we become those kinds of people and that kind of community? Open at the edges, but loving at the centre. Beautiful. Can I pray a blessing on you, and then we'll clear out of here. Thank you. But we're staying. The closest we're going to get to communion is sticking around to have a feed. So that's still on. Yeah.
Can I just say thank you everyone for your cooperation with the COVID check-in and your diligence. Is really appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. And everyone, thanks, brother, for Andrew for setting up the chairs, setting everything up, and checking everyone in. It's good. He'll check you in, but he won't check you out. Is that right? There you go. All right. Let's all stand and I'll say a prayer. May the Spirit of God go with you wherever you may be sent. May you be guided through the wilderness, protected through the storms. May you be brought back here rejoicing at the wonders you have seen. May you be brought back rejoicing once again into our doors. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Can I just say that we have a card. Desmond wasn't here last week, but we had a birthday card for him, and not everybody got to sign it. So if there's anyone who hasn't signed Desmond's card from last week, it's here. And I've also got Lisa's card a little bit later, Lisa Owen's 50th birthday card.
And
So,
Bronwyn, just for the record, I'm 21 3 times.
Desmond's 21 years old if you want to write happy 20th. And here's the offering bag. I'll just leave it up the front if you want it.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, Bronwyn.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah.